What's up guys, Seth here, back with another video on Marvel Contest Champions, and today I'm going over the last fight of the Apex Coliseum. We're finally here after, well, we've been in the event for 6 weeks now. We've got another 2 weeks to go to be able to clear out that Ebony Maw, and we're nearly there. If you haven't done this fight yet, this is where you're gonna get your 1.5 tier 5 alpha, you're gonna get your Titan Nexus, you're gonna get an R4 gem, you're gonna get all of this good stuff. So if you wanna know how to do this fight, that's what I'm gonna be going over today. And if I've missed anything, or if you found some options that I didn't go over, leave it in the comments below, because I'd love to see who you used as well. I have a lot less bars cleared on Ebony Maw at the moment. My top run is a 10.28 with Lizard, purely because he hasn't been out for very long. It is the first day of him being out, and I've been at work all day, so I haven't had a chance to properly sit down and do a decent amount of runs yet to try and get in a good one. But when I do, I'll post it on the channel as well, and it'll likely be coming from one of the champions that I'm going to go over today. But before I get into the champions, what does this fight look like with Ebony Maw? So same as the other Coliseum fights, you're going to have the rotating health bars. The difference is, in this fight, for some reason, I'm not sure why Kabam decided to shake things up in this one, but he's got a completely different arduous Coliseum node to the rest of them. So in the other fights, you had the requirement where after 5 bars were cleared, they would gain a timer on them, and you had to hit them with a heavy attack to be able to clear that timer. Otherwise, if you didn't, you were going to get put to sleep, and they would have an opportunity to strike you. But the way that Ebony Maw differs is he's got a completely different version of abilities after the 5 health bars are cleared. And what he's got is called Pinpoint. So Pinpoint, if you're familiar with other champions like Silver Sable or the Maker or Craven, it's similar to a trap ability. So in a trap ability, it's going to basically have a part of the arena, a little icon is going to pop up at a certain part of the arena. Probably if you've got the opponent against the wall, it's going to be behind you, it's going to be to the left of the screen. And what you need to do is, once it's past 5 bars, you need to make your opponent or make yourself pass through that pinpoint or that little trap sort of icon. What that's going to do is that's going to end the timer, it's going to prevent you from being put to sleep, and that's all you have to do. You don't need to fire a heavy attack at that right time, you don't need to stay in the area for a certain amount of time. All you've got to do is pass through it. So if you're baiting out a special attack, or you're avoiding an attack, or you're dashing back to dash back forwarding with Lizard or something like that, and you can pass through that pinpoint, you're covered. I can imagine that the time is going to get a bit annoying in the later bars. I'm sure I'll see that once I do some higher up runs, but it seems pretty straightforward. You're not relying on a stun. You're not relying on, in the Airwalker fight, champions really benefited from having an opening to a heavy attack to be able to knock them down. You're not having to worry about that. You don't need to worry about that Ebony Maw is difficult to stun. You don't need to find an opportunity to throw a heavy attack even though you might miss. It's just pass through that point. And if you pass through the point, you're going to be okay. And that's really all you have to look out for once you have the right matchup. Other than that, this specific node to the champion is you've got Close Call, Degeneration, which is something for us. The attacker is immune to the first degeneration effect they suffer in a fight. The next node specific to Ebony Maw is the Enduring Discipline. This is basically that when a non-damaging debuff, other than the stun debuff, expires on Ebony Maw naturally, he's going to gain a 2% endurance passive, up to a max stack of 20 or 40% endurance. So this is basically going to reduce the effectiveness of later debuffs that you apply. So it's going to reduce the duration of the new non-damaging debuffs. You can think about this as, the debuffs that Photon applies or Lizard applies or Anti-Venom or Deathless She-Hulk, things like that. All of those sort of non-damaging ones that a lot of champions might require for their ramp, they're going to become less and less effective, and they're going to expire faster and faster, which might make maintaining of that ramp more and more difficult as the fight goes on. So the next node is Impending Extortion. So that basically means that there's going to be a timer on Ebony Maw. You need to push him to a bar of power before the timer expires, or you're going to take a chunk of damage as well. If you push him to a bar of power before the timer expires, you're not going to take any damage. So all you got to do is make sure that you push him to at least a special 1 in that amount of time, which is very, very achievable, especially if you're fighting fairly aggressively, and then you're not going to have to worry about that node either. That can be made a bit more complicated if you don't have a miss counter, because you might be waiting out a falter or something at the time, but generally through the fight, you're going to be able to play around that, and the chunk of damage it applies isn't going to knock you out entirely. So over the long term of the fight, if you're regularly missing it, it's going to impact you, but other than that, you can pretty much disregard it with the right counters. The only other thing in this fight is we've got the obligatory root ability, which Kabam loves to throw in there for no reason whatsoever. So this is Cement Shoes. So every 8 seconds, you're going to gain a cement charge. If you block an attack, the cement charge is going to be removed, but if you reach 3 cement charges, so if you went 24 seconds without blocking an attack, you're going to be inflicted with a root passive for 4 seconds. Unlike the Dazzler fight though, you are able to still throw your special attacks during this route. So it is a route that you can at least escape with a special attack. Unlike Dazzler's where she put a special attack lock on you, there's nothing like that in this fight, so you can throw a special attack to escape it as well. But if you're regularly blocking hits, if you're, parrying the special attacks that Ebony Moore's throwing, if you're getting parries in or blocking at the opportune times, then you're going to be able to keep those cement charges fairly low as well. And then standard ones again, you've got the special attack 3 on there, which you've got to look out for as well to not push him too high in power. But different again, he instead is more likely to throw his special attack 1, which is great for Ebony Moore because I always slip up on the special attack 2. It catches me out at the worst times, and when it punishes you, it's horrific. You're basically dead. So special attack 1 preference is definitely ideal. So taking that all into account, what are some options for this fight? So the first champion I'm going to go over is Lizard. Lizard is a really good choice for a sort of slow and steady option for Ebony Moore. I think as well, a lot of people have a fairly high ranked Lizard, as everyone was kind of excited about him being one of the first ascendable champions that people were able to get from the Titan pool as well. So I think a lot of people also have him fairly high ranked. So what does Lizard have to be able to get around this fight? When Lizard dashes in from a distance or when he intercepts the offender, he's going to place a tracking debuff on them. What that does is going to prevent the opponent from missing. So it means it's going to get around Ebony Moore's regular abilities of placing the falter on you and having you miss attacks. It's going to basically allow you to maintain a decent amount of damage, and it's a fairly long tracking debuff as well. You don't have to worry about regularly intercepting the opponent. You can place it on there once, get some damage in, throw some specials, and then place it on there again. Lizard also, for survivability, is really, really solid. As I said, this is a pretty slow and steady matchup. Even though Lizard has potential for some big hits, you're not going to see it too much in this fight. I guess in Coliseum, it's sort of limited in how big of a hit you can have as well, because you are just capped, having to clear 1 bar at a time. But including the regeneration ability the Lizard has, it's going to be very, very survivable for this Ebony Moore fight, which is going to help you get around some of those direct damage abilities that Ebony Moore's going to apply. It's going to help you if you fail to push him to a special 1 attack in time. And built into Lizard's kit as well, he also has a similar power sting ability to what Scorpion has. So he places ruptures on the defender, and when an opponent throws a special attack, those ruptures are basically going to act as a power sting. So for a fight like Ebony Moore, where he's gaining a fair bit of power and he has a preference for throwing the special 1, he's going to be regularly throwing that special 1, and it means that it's going to really help you get a lot of that damage in the early parts of the fight as well. I would say Ebony Moore, out of all of the fights, I think he's the most straightforward fight out of all of them. I think you've got a pretty good potential to get some high bars on Ebony Moore. I think there's probably other fights in this Apex Coliseum where you probably could get more bars off than on Ebony Moore, but Ebony Moore has very little abilities that are making the fight significantly different to a regular Ebony Moore fight. So you'll find that the counters that you would bring in for a war fight for Ebony Moore, for a quest fight of Ebony Moore, are probably the same champions that you're going to bring in for this Apex Coliseum fight too. So if you're used to fighting Ebony Moore, if you have go-to champion for this fight as well, bring them in, because they're probably going to do okay, as long as you keep an eye on the certain nodes and you keep an eye on pushing him to the specials at the opportune times, and you have some sort of counter for miss, you're probably going to do okay to chip through some of these bars as well. So Lizard, I think overall, he's a really good option. However, even though he's got the top amount of bars cleared for me at the moment, I don't think he is the best option for him. So even though he's got the top amount of bars cleared for me right now, I'm fairly sure with a couple more practice attempts, one of the other champions that I talk about is going to get a much higher amount of bars cleared. Now, one of these champions that I'm talking about is Photon. So Photon, similar to Lizard, has already a miss counter built into her kit as well. That's sort of key in this Apex Coliseum fight, is you want some sort of miss counter. So with Photon, the way you build her up is basically by blocking or hitting the defender. You're going to build up your charges, and then you're going to enter your high damage mode, which is where you're going to be able to get in a lot more attacks. You're going to be able to throw your special attacks and get in those big damage hits. And also during the big damage phase, you cannot miss. So it means that you basically completely shut down this Ebony Moore fight once you're in that stage. So once ramped, Photon can just maintain the fight the entire time. And she's also, considering a lot of champions in the past kind of correlated their physical size in the game to their survivability. For a long period, female champions in the game had way lower health pools and way lower block proficiency. But now in game, it doesn't matter based on that. And Photon is one of those champions that proves that, because she is a really, really tanky tanky champion. I think that Photon is going to be a great option for really high bar runs, because as long as you're not messing up in between, you know, one of your high damage phases ending and having to build up your ramp again, as long as you're careful in that little window where you potentially could miss and potentially could take more damage, you're going to be able to do a hell of a lot of damage outside of that. I've gotten a similar amount of bars with Photon, around the 10 bars as well, but I'm going to do a lot more practice fights with her to see what the full potential is, because I think that it could go a lot higher. With Photon, basically how her kit works is, as I said, you're going to build up those charges. Once you hit the 25 charges total, you're going to enter that high damage mode automatically. You don't have to do anything to trigger that, but the way you're going to try and maintain it is by punishing the opponent's special attacks. So another reason that the special 1 bias is really good on Ebony Maw for this fight is that he's going to be throwing specials constantly, and if he's throwing specials constantly, you can punish them constantly and you can maintain Photon in the high damage mode for a lot longer than she would be able to otherwise. You can enter this high damage mode before the full 25 charges are on you if you want to, by dashing back and holding block. It's going to start a little timer, and when that timer ends, you'll be in that high damage mode. And if you need a bit of a miss counter to pinch, you're stuck against the wall and he's faltering you, then you can use that as a bit of a safety net, but I would just say wait till it gets to 25 and then prioritize trying to use all of your special attack damage in that time as well, because the amount of damage you're using is going to be much, much higher as well. Outside of that, Photon is a very straightforward champion to use. Build up your charges, maintain it by punishing special attacks, throw off your special attacks yourself, and you're going to deal a lot of damage against Ebony Maw too. Very low learning curve for this one, very high damage potential, and if you do want to practice and if you do want to get good at this fight, I think Photon is a champion that's going to take you really, really far in this fight as well, and I reckon she's probably going to be one of the top health bar clearers outside of just the most popular champions. So overall, great option. Now, a surprising addition to this list, outside of the science class, is actually Captain Britain. So Captain Britain is a champion that has a really, really high damage potential if you get into a pretty opportune situation to be able to throw off that damage. Captain Britain also has the ability to counter miss as well, as when there is a Neuroshock debuff on the opponent, you can't miss either. So how you place a Neuroshock with Captain Britain is largely through the special attacks when you're fully ramped, but you can do it when you strike the opponent while they have an exhaustion debuff. So exhaustion basically places on the opponent through your heavy attack and through your special attacks, but at the start of the fight before you've ramped, it's pretty much going to be through your heavy, as you're trying to save your power up for the special 3. So if you place an exhaustion on Ebony Maw and then you strike him, you're going to place that Neuroshock, you build up to your special 3, you throw that, and you're going to gain a bunch of prowess buffs. Those prowess buffs are then going to lead to you doing some really, really high damage potential special 2s and special 1s. Maintaining that damage for a decent amount of time with Captain Britain is also fairly straightforward. Once you're fully ramped, you're pretty much going to maintain Neuroshocks on the opponent the whole time as well, and it means that you're going to be able to regularly maintain avoiding that miss dynamic of Ebony Maw, but because you're going to be able to actively prevent that miss from occurring regularly throughout the fight, you're going to open up the door to a lot of damage potential with Captain Britain, especially made even better by her safeguard mechanic. She again is a fairly tanky champion too, and if you do slip up with Captain Britain, it's a lot less punishing than it is with other champions. Captain Britain as well is a champion where you can very quickly get a bunch of bars cleared. If you're not the person who wants to sit there for hours and get really good at this Ebony Maw fight, if you're not the person who wants to, has a goal like myself where I'm trying to hit a certain amount of bars for each champion, then Captain Britain is a great option, because once she's ramped up through the special 3 and you're regularly throwing the special 2s with those prowess buffs, you're going to clear out a decent chunk of bars even without really knowing how to fight her that well. Obviously, once you get past the 5 bars, you've just got to look out for that pinpoint mechanic, but as I said, it's easier to work around than it was with the heavy attack sleep that the other champions had as well. So overall, I think whilst Photon may go further in this fight, I think for the masses, Captain Britain is probably the best option to get the fight done. She's got a really high damage potential, she's got a very quick ramp, and she's also got really good survivability. So overall for this fight, I think she makes a pretty stellar option. And if you've got a Captain Britain at a decent rank, even rank 1 or 2, throw her into Apex Coliseum. It's still worth doing, even if you find this fight annoying. And once ramped, she's going to be hitting ridiculously hard regardless. So even if she's at a lower rank, you're still going to be able to clear it out and still going to be able to get all of those crazy rewards as well. And that's it, guys. We're done. Apex Coliseum is complete. I love Coliseum. I have a lot of fun with this. I think big bosses are great. I really enjoy things like the Alliance War Big Things seasons where they just have really big bosses with really big health pools. I really enjoy raids. I just love to see the big numbers in the high damage modes. There's something especially satisfying about Coliseum just churning through health bars in the right situation. And alongside that, the rewards are nuts. The rewards are crazy. For the amount of time you actually have to invest, if all your goal is to clear out these bars, you can do it really, really easily with a lot of the champions that I've recommended as well, because you are going to gain a bunch of Titan shards, you're going to get a bunch of catalysts, you're going to gain the Stellar Forged piece for Blade as well that you will need to get unless you want to spend units on it later. There's a lot of good stuff up for grabs, and if you haven't done it yet, get around to it. If this is the first video that you're seeing of my Coliseum series, I have done a video on every other champion in the Apex Coliseum as well. So if you're still yet to do those fights, or you want to practice, or you want to see just the options that I recommended as well, go check them out. They'll be on the channel as well. But if you've gained something from this video, if you have learned who you should use, if you've learned a bit about the fight, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to talk about it there. But in the meantime, guys, thanks very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.